part of our Growth Week, we're bringing together Angela from FA Bio and James from Earth Rover for an experience-led discussion on what it takes to grow an agri-tech business. So Angela is from FA Bio. Your focus is microbial innovation and taking basically science from lab to the field. And James, you are the CEO of Earth Rover, testing robotics in real farm conditions. So I'd love to start with a little bit of background about FA Bio, if possible, Angela.
Sure. So we started FA Bio as Fungi Alert now 11 years ago while we were completing our PhDs at Imperial College London. And there, our mission was really to develop tools that will alert about the presence of fungal diseases in soils. And that's what we were doing for the first 5 years of the company. And then in 2020, 2021, we realized of the potential of our tool to understand the soil biology and to discover biological solutions for key problems in agriculture that could replace agrochemicals. So in 2021, we became FA Bio. And since then, we have been discovering microbes that can act as biofungicides and biofertilizers. We're a team of over 20 people based at Rothamsted Research Centre.
That's fantastic. And James, again, the same for Earth Rover, if possible. You joined in 2022, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I joined the team a little over 3 years ago, but Earth Rover was established in 2017. So it's an agri-tech company focused on bringing solutions to the challenges faced in organic farming. Our chairman and co-founder, James Brown, is a fifth-generation farmer who owns an organic farm in northeast England, and he knows these challenges only too well. So he set the task for the team to find a solution not only to crop monitoring in organic farming, but also to weed control in organic farming. So the team was set up to develop these technologies using AI and robotics to bring all of that to fruition.
Great. So I'm really excited actually to talk to you both at the same time today, because I feel like it's a really interesting interaction between these kind of microbial solutions and these like technical solutions. So I think the first question I'd really like to start with, and I'll ask you this first, James. What specific problem do you think Earth Rover is trying to solve if you had to sum it up in a couple of sentences?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges farmers face is weed control to prevent yield loss on the crop. Herbicides are not an option for organic farmers, so they can only really use mechanical methods when the soil conditions are right, or manual weeding, which nobody particularly wants to do in this day and age. But that said, conventional growers are also seeing increasing restrictions on the use of herbicides and also the effectiveness of those herbicides. Some weeds are growing herbicide resistant. So Earth Rover was really tasked with solving that problem, and we've developed a weed control solution using concentrated light. So we kill weeds on farm, on field, without using any chemicals and without disturbing the soil.
And same question to you, Angela.
Sure. When we started, we realized that soil fungi were probably one of the most overlooked agents in agriculture. They can have huge impacts as diseases, but they are also helpers, having potential huge impact on crop production. So when we started as Fungi Alert, we really wanted to provide tools that will be able to provide some light and bring these agents visible to growers so they could guide their disease practices and they could realize the impact of their farming practices were having in the soil life. Then, as we evolved and we engaged with the community, we realized how farmers were lacking of robust inputs for sustainable agriculture, and we decided to then focus on delivering biological inputs for regenerative agriculture.
I feel like there's a really a lovely crossover actually between the ethos of both the companies in terms of what really works for farmers, how we can help people farm in a modern world, which I really love. So I'd I'd like to just go back a little bit, James, if possible, and talk about how you took that prototype initially and now you're at the place where you are, where you've got a commercially viable product.
Yep, I think the journey has not been without its challenges. Obviously, you've got to develop a technology not only that works, but also a technology that people believe that works. So you need to work very closely with the customer base to prove that there is a solution here that has a high level of efficacy. You need independent validation from that to prove independently that the answer is correct. And then you need to demonstrate on farm in front of farmers, and they will soon tell you what's right or wrong. So the journey has really been about prove the technology in the lab environment, take that out into the field, prove that works, or take the feedback from the farmer, further design iterations to then bring that to what we called an alpha level prototype, and then further iterations based on the feedback of that testing into betas before we are ready for pilot production.
And I know, Angela, you have a similar kind of pipeline for your products as well, including, regulation hurdles. So a follow-on question a little bit for you, Angela, would be what do you think when what James has mentioned about how you have to really demonstrate the impact of your product to a farmer? What do you think is the biggest challenge when it comes to doing that?
Well, we work with biological inputs, microbes that are living beings. These microbes do have different efficacy depending on the environment where they are placed. So that's a big challenge with demonstrating robust efficacy of biological products. We need to produce a lot of data from glasshouse trials where we really understand the mechanism of action, what is the best application method, or at what stage the application should happen to have a robust impact on the crop health. And then we need to test it across different fields, across different soils, across different years in order to have that data that is going to convince end users or adopters to trust our technology.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. I'd really like to understand a little bit, James, from your perspective as well. What was the response? What response do you have when you show your technology to farmers or the end users? Because as far as I know, it's called Claws, right? The concentrated light autonomous weeding and scouting robot. So when you do demonstrate that to farmers, what kind of response do they have? And again, I'll ask the same question to you, Angela, afterwards.
Yeah, the response to CLAWS has been great. As you said, CLAWS stands for Concentrated Light Autonomous Weeding and Scouting. We generally get two levels of feedback. One is generally from the person who's got at the coalface, who's got to deal with the day-to-day running on the farm. And as soon as they see all of the blue lights light up the weeds and zap those weeds, the wow factor kicks in. It's quite a light show, and there's a fair bit of steam that comes off the weeds as they wither and die. But the other factor, of course, is the scouting, which obviously are more senior people in farming and certainly at the helm looking for yield improvements, even at small percentages or productivity improvements, suddenly realize that plant by plant data is hugely valuable. So that then creates a second level of wow factor when it's on the field.
I'll let you chime in there, Angela, because I'm sure you've got lots to say when it comes to yield.
Right. I think maybe a bit different to James. End users are growers, but our partners or customers are not growers, are distributors or manufacturers that can take these products to market. We are looking at crop inputs. So, generally, except for biostimulants in certain regions, it's a regulated market. So the fact that we have efficacy data from our field trials, and we mainly target crop improvement or yield improvement, sorry, or disease resistance, yeah, it sends a very positive signal, but at the end of the day, we need to have a whole business model around the product. We need to have stability data, some um, industry partners demand 2 years of shelf life, stability data of the product. We also need to understand the scalability and the cost of goods of the product. And we also need to have a clear registration path. So even if we get a very positive response from the yield and from the data that we have, these products can take years to go into market. So we get excitement, but then we get all these other questions that we need to answer. And we are now in that path. We are now in the path where we are going through the registration and really the scalability of our products, with the hope that we will see some of our products in the market within 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, I think I jumped around a little bit then to start asking about end users, but I think that there's this whole path of growth that really is the crux of what we're talking about today. And Angela, you've touched on that a little bit now, that scalability side. So I'd love to just do a quick follow-on question. What do you think were a couple of the real key hurdles when it came to scaling?
Well, having the infrastructure and the funds to scale up. In our case, we need to produce thousands of liters of our product, so that takes certain capacity. Key hurdles is to have a process that is viable, that is feasible from a financing point of view to be scaled, to have a formulation process that is efficacious and also is going to have good stability, and really then find the right partners that can scale your technology, because we are working with fungi, and there are limited amount of partners that really have the knowledge and the and experience scaling up fungi products.
That's fantastic. And I mean, UK Agri-Tech Centre have been a big part of your journey, and it's been really nice to see that. And I think same question for you, James. What would you say were the key hurdles for Earth Rover?
Yeah, I think hurdles in a startup world are many and varied. Whether it's establishing a facility that you can start to do prototyping in, or even as we're heading to now, looking at pilot production, or whether it's getting the customer on board and engaging with them and getting their feedback and building that trust that what you're putting out on their field won't cause havoc with their crop rotation system or even with their crop yield. So, as I say, there's plenty of challenges there, but I think the key ones really are to take steps measured and in a real technology development process, if you like, to the product that you're bringing out at the end. Allow enough iteration in those loops to take the lessons learned from your early prototypes into something that is going to be more commercially viable. So they're the real hurdles you've got to overcome. And in now, I think, as Angela said, allow enough runway in the overall financials of the startup to ensure that that can get to market and start to be commercially viable.
James, how would you say your role as CEO has changed in the last few years that you've kind of been with Earth Rover? You've been growing that pipeline.
There's certain aspects of it over the last few years that haven't really changed. You know, the underlying leadership activities are making sure that you've got the team aligned, motivated, informed, and the product and technology being developed in the path that you're expecting it to head. So that hasn't fundamentally changed. What really has changed is the day-to-day focus of moving from what is fundamentally technology development into a product development, and then more recently a product planning and launch role. So it's transitioning through those phases. It's certainly put me out like I'm here today, out on a customer's base in Holland.
Yeah, I could see you nodding there, Angela. Same question for you, really. How do you think that your role has changed? How have you had to adapt as the business has grown?
Well, my role has evolved or changed dramatically. I started the company when I was finishing my PhD at Imperial College. So there has been a huge shift from scientist to architect, Really, at the beginning, I was in the lab. I was testing the prototypes, developing the prototypes, growing strawberry plants in the glass house to test the prototypes and have that iterative feedback loop that James was mentioning. And to scale, I really needed to fire myself from the lab. And the first team members that we recruited were really scientists, so we could really focus and have that space to articulate the vision and develop an innovation engine and that could execute that vision. So I think I have also in the past years really evolved from chief problem officer to really a chief visionary officer. I am developing a team and a culture that can really outgrow me and can be independent of me. So that has been a shift over the most recent years.
Yeah, I think having the right people in the right place is really important. James, how do you approach that at Earth Rover, given that AI and robotics moves so fast paced?
Yeah, I think the key thing is engage with those who understand it, which for me, certainly heading beyond my 50s now, is to find the younger generation who know it much faster than we do. It's find the right people in the right places. We have a fairly globally dispersed team. We've got people all over the UK. We've got a very talented team in Spain, in Barcelona. And we use the talents, whether it's robotics, whether it's AI, whether it's manufacturing experience, or procurement or product development experience. So we tap into the right skills wherever they are in the world.
So, a lot of our audience are agri-tech ventures and agri-tech businesses, and maybe people who are just starting out in their journey. So, I'd love to understand, Angela, what kind of feedback loop has proven the most reliable for your business and FA Bio in terms of users to the partners?
That's a great question. I would say from field to lab is probably the most reliable one because until you take your technology to the field and you see it working in real conditions, you really don't know how good it is. And then you can have an amazing technology that you have improved and optimized and works in the field. And then you have to take it to the paying customers, which might not be your end users. And then they have a different set of requirements. So I would say field end users, and then having partners feedback, and also different stakeholders beyond that. Even engaging with food producers or retailers or understanding what their needs are, so you can really anticipate trends and also have those in mind. So once you're optimizing your product.
Yeah, I totally agree. And James, same question to you, really.
Yeah, and I think I echo what Angela's saying. Your customer end user feedback is critical in your development process. The wider you can spread the net, the more people you can talk to, the more demonstrations you can run and get feedback on those demonstrations, the better the end solution will be. And that could be anything from its appearance, its operation, its user interface, or just what it overall how its performance is.
Yeah, I think that that pipeline is really riddled with challenges and barriers and hurdles, as like, you know, a lot of businesses in whatever sector are, but agri-tech especially, because the farm is such a dynamic environment. So I, we talked a little bit about the challenges that you guys both think that you faced. I'd love to talk about key successes. Or what do you think? Are there any pivotal moments, Angela, for example, where you thought, okay, this has been something really good for growing the business?
Well, obviously, fundraising is a great moment once you complete that fundraise because that injects that runway into the business, and it allows you to really build a team and scale up. But I'm not very sure if that's the sort of answer that you are looking for.
No, that's a perfect answer. And same question to you, James. What would you say were like pivotal moments?
I think there's probably a number of them. I think I'll echo Angela's. When you finally secure some investment funding that gives you the runway you need, that's fantastic in a startup environment, because you're always on that cost versus time path, shall we say, as to how on earth do we get this product to market in the timescales left with the funding we have. And it's a challenging environment. So I echo that, because that's always feels like success to the business. But not half as much of a success as when you get the entire team together to deliver either a product demonstration or a product delivery to a customer. And yes, long hours to get the job done, but when you hit that date and it's delivered and handed over, and you see the smile on that farmer's face when it starts to fire at weeds on their farm, I think that's definitely a crowning glory of success for what we do.
And what just a little bit of a follow-up, you both mentioned fundraising and how important it is, and obviously is the crux of a business growth ultimately. So if you had like one piece of advice that you'd give an agri-tech business in terms of fundraising, what would that be?
Resilience, that you're gonna hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes, but also don't be hurt by those rejections. Really use them as an opportunity to learn, to get feedback, and to improve. And the finding the right partner, as an investor, as a shareholder, is a really tricky thing, because the fact that they give you the capital doesn't mean that they might be the right partners for the long term. So although fundraising is great and receiving the capital is great, I would say do not fundraise if you don't need it. Try to bootstrap as much as possible, and once you fundraise, really take care of protecting your interests as a founder and as a shareholder of the business, because investors do want a return on investment at the end of the day. So you do need to also protect your interest.
Yeah, same question for you, James. As CEO, what's one piece of advice you would give an agri-tech business that's looking to grow?
I think, again, trying to find that key investor who's very supportive of the company and the technology and the team is crucial. Whether it's one or two is always a thing, and we're eternally grateful to our lead investors, because they have been with the business through thick and thin. But as a piece of advice to anybody getting into this, the market is always challenging, particularly for agri-tech, and if it involves hardware specifically, to raise funds in the normal VC market. So allow enough time and never stop. I think Angela touched on the point, and I think the phrase is you have to kiss a lot of frogs, but eventually you will find that investment fund if there is a genuine solution to the problem that's out there within your company.
Yeah, I'd love to pivot a little bit again now, if that's okay. And I'd like to talk about what's on the horizon for both Earth Rover and FA Bio, if possible. Like anything exciting that's coming up, or anything you're looking forward to. James, would love to start with you.
This year, after a fantastic year last year with our beta trials, where we exceeded our target of 5 units and ended up delivering 8, we are now pushing forward into pilot production this year, where we'll be delivering over 25 units. So I can't wait for this season to get started. The product's going to get faster. There's going to be more crop AI involved. We're going to get more data insights on farm for the farmers to understand what's happening with their crop as we go through the season. So yeah, I can't wait for the next phase of this business.
And Angela?
Yeah, I'm very excited about our product that we are filing the registration in Europe this year. It's corn biostimulant. We have 2 years of field trial data, over 7 different field trial locations across Europe, where we have seen a consistent yield increase of up to 22%. We are now scaling up the production. It's looking very promising from a cost of goods perspective. So we are very excited about registering this product. and hopefully will be in the market the following year. So, with our partnership with IFF Crop Biologicals, they are also gonna target registering another one of our microbes as a biofungicide in the US by the beginning of next year. So I think that's a key milestone as well as they are locking the manufacturing process.
Yeah, and I'd love to just follow that on with a bit of a wider question just to finish up on what do you think is really exciting about the sector as a whole in agri-tech, and especially, you've both touched on, well, James, you've touched on AI a little bit. What do you think is on the horizon for the sector that you're excited about?
I think we've got a number of exciting areas. Obviously, this is really a use of AI for good. We're using AI to identify weeds and zap them with what is fundamentally a net zero technology. The energy consumption is significantly lower than any other option, so there's no carbon associated with applying a small pulse of light. So we not only got AI excitement, we've got a potential net zero technology that uses minimal energy. So I'm really looking forward to that, not to mention the fact that we will have the capability to reduce or eliminate the use of chemicals on fields.
And Angela, what about you?
For me, it's data, like really all the data that we can get now that was really invisible before, and the use of AI or precision application technologies to really mitigate the impact that agriculture was having in our ecosystem. And also from my business or from my sector, I'm very excited about all the developments around fermentation and formulation that are happening, all the innovation around these areas that are making products cheaper, more efficacious, and more stable, which is only going to increase the adoption and the reliability of these products.
So I'd love to do a couple of really nice quick fire questions for you both. So one practice that improved reliability, Angela?
That was really designing business processes. So we were scientists, founders, and we were just doers and doing experiments, but really designing business processes, including SOPs or accountability systems. I think that really helped improve the reliability and also trusting the data that we were generating and being able to go back to historic data.
Yeah, and same question for you, James. One practice that's improved reliability.
I think there's a lot of mileage in the saying that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if it's working, don't meddle. Things are complicated enough. Leave it as it is for now, and you can improve on it later.
Next question, a metric that you track weekly that others often ignore.
I think outside the obvious financial ones, it's really customer inquiries. If you're tracking your customer inquiries, then that's a really good sign of whether you're developing something people are interested in.
For me, I'm very excited around the diversity index that we have in our microbial library because that really gives us a sneak peek of what innovation are we gonna be able to develop in the future, and what new microbes are we finding in the soil that could have a potential for agri-tech or other industries.
Great. Right, next question, next quick fire question. James, we'll start with you. A piece of feedback that changed your approach.
I think that the key one that really changed our approach was how do we weed in rows when the crop is emerging at the same time as the weeds? Because predominantly the technology had been developed on transplant crops, so you'd already got large plant, small weed. So the fact that we started speaking to people who are growing row crops that had the same problem allowed us to develop the AI to do pattern recognition in that environment, and that's moved on at pace ever since.
I think for me is that founder's success is not really the product you are building; it's really the team and the legacy that you leave behind. I think that has allowed me to really shift my focus from being the primary doer to really be a visionary architect and to develop a team that could innovate and make decisions independently of me.
Absolutely. And I think we kind of might have covered this already, but one habit that maybe we could ask this question in less in a business sense, but one habit that you have personally that saves you time, keeps you organized.
That's a tricky one. One habit. I have many habits. I think that saves me time. This is gonna sound a bit trivial, but I guess that all the inflows of emails that we have, I do have. It's similar to the zero inbox rule. I'm not sure if you have heard of it. Try to read or archive or snooze my emails as fast as possible so then I don't get lost or I don't waste enormous amount of time navigating through all the emails.
James, same question for you.
Habits is a challenging one. I think definitely process and sticking to process is quite crucial. And as a habit, trying to clear any of the approvals that are going to stop the business from moving forward on a daily basis is essential.
I always like to refer back to Bill Gates, who apparently time blocks his diary in 15-minute slots for the full day, doesn't he? So I can't imagine being that productive. But yeah. Okay, so thank you, Angela and James, so much for joining me today. It's been fantastic hearing about what you're doing at FA Bio and Earth Rover, and really looking forward to seeing both companies grow more and more.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.